Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Tian Yu. Coming up in this edition, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has conceded defeat in the general election following a crushing defeat to the Labour Party. Reports say Israel's spy chief is traveling to Qatar to resume ceasefire talks on the conflict in Gaza. And U.S. President Joe Biden is facing growing opposition from the Democrats as he refuses to quit the race for the White House. We begin in Europe. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has conceded defeat in the general election. The Labour Party has swept to power after crossing the 326-seat threshold for a working majority in the House of Commons. Its victory ends 14 years of Conservative Party rule in Britain. Sunak said he has called Labour leader Keir Starmer to congratulate him. He also claimed responsibility for his party's defeat. Stuart Smith has more.
Labour securing that with a very large majority, no doubt about it, no need for any coalition talks or negotiations with other party. He has a huge majority, which should mean he's able to stay in power here in the UK for the next 5 years. Nearly all of the votes have been counted and declared. There are 9 more constituencies to declare who has won in these various 650 local areas around Britain. But at this point, the result is certain and nearly all of the seats are known. In terms of other interesting developments, Reform UK, the more right-wing party, managed to secure far more seats than predicted. And the Liberal Democrats have done very well to become the third opposition party as well. Well, it was mostly no surprise that the Labour Party secured a majority. That has been predicted as soon as this election was called. In fact, it was one of the reasons people were so unsure why Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, called the election now in the first place. Indeed, Labour secured that large majority, but it's being seen as more of a Conservative loss than a Labour Party win, with seemingly the reason Labour have done so well is a rejection of the Conservative Party by voters, some of them going to the Labour Party, absolutely, but many of those votes going to other parties, the Greens, Reform UK, the Liberal Democrats, and it seems that Conservative loss is what's really led to this Labour victory. Here is Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, speaking about that win earlier in the day.
But a mandate like this comes with a great responsibility. Our task is nothing less than renewing the ideas that hold this country together. National renewal. Whoever you are, wherever you started in life, if you work hard, if you play by the rules, this country should give you a fair chance to get on. It should always respect your contribution, and we have to restore that.
On this difficult night, I'd like to express my gratitude to the people of the Richmond and Northallerton constituency for your continued support. Since I moved here a decade ago, you have made me and my family feel so at home, and I look forward to continuing to serve as your Member of Parliament. The Labour Party has won this general election, and I have called Sir Keir Starmer to congratulate him on his victory. Today, power will change hands in a peaceful and orderly manner, with goodwill on all sides.
This is the largest defeat ever for the Conservative Party. Dozens of cabinet ministers have lost their seats, and so while Rishi Sunak will stay on as an MP, there'll be plenty of debate in the Conservative Party about how to regain voters' trust. For now, they're the official opposition, but with very fewer MPs in Parliament.
That was Stuart Smith on the UK general election that had seen a Labour landslide victory. Turning to the Middle East, a Reuters report say Israel's spy chief is traveling to Qatar to resume talks on a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. This comes as the White House said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Joe Biden discussed efforts to finalize a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Netanyahu also met this cabinet to discuss new Hamas proposals. Akram Al-Satari has more from Gaza.
Well, continuous bombardment, same misery that the Palestinians have been living for the last 9 months. It's not only East Khan Yunis area that has been seeing the large-scale bombardment that has been taking place for the last few days. Also, the whole Gaza Strip, starting from Beit Lahia in the very north of the Gaza Strip to Rafah in the very south of the Gaza Strip, and also Khan Yunis area and Gaza Central area. Heavy bombardments, people falling injured or killed. It's starting from Beit Lahia, where the Israeli occupation forces targeted a group of citizens who were in their area and ended up killing a Palestinian woman and injuring around 3 children. In Gaza City, 4 different areas were targeted in the city, and the life of around 12 Palestinians was claimed in Al-Shaja'iyya neighborhood, where the very intensified bombardment has been taking place, and the gunfire of the Apaches has also been targeting the people, and with the destruction of whole residential blocks have been taking place for the last 6 days, ever since the operation started in Al-Shaja'iyya neighborhood in Rafah, to the very south of Gaza Strip. Palestinian civil defense and Palestinian ambulance services have been trying actively to collect the bodies of the people who were killed, either freshly killed by the Israeli occupation or killed during the operation that started around 60 days ago in Rafah. A job that is overwhelmed by the risk of being bombarded and targeted by the Israeli occupation. However, the teams are courageously trying to reach the areas, and they have been coming back and reporting about the decomposed bodies that still need to be fetched and about the bombardment that has been taking place. Also, 1 Palestinian journalist was killed when their house was targeted in Ad-Daraj area.
That was Akram Al-Satari reporting from the Gaza Strip. Lebanon's Hezbollah has launched a barrage of more than 200 rockets and drones at Israeli army positions. Thursday's attack followed over 100 rockets fired the day before. The militant group said its latest attack was in response to Israel's killing of a senior Hezbollah commander in South Lebanon. Israel reported no deaths in its northern border area, where most communities have been evacuated. And it said it had responded with strikes in southern Lebanon. Jonathan Regev has more on the ground.
We're speaking of some 200 rockets and some 20 UAVs fired from Lebanon into Israel, and this comes after Israel killed a top Hezbollah official in southern Lebanon. And Hezbollah, as expected, I would say, fired what is probably the heaviest barrage of rockets since the war began. Some of those rockets reached the northern parts of the Haifa Bay, the city of Acre in northern Israel. All that is true, but still, with that heavy barrage and with that killing of the top Hezbollah official, both sides still seem to be adhering to those rules of engagement which they took upon themselves. Heavy crossfire yet, but not crossing a certain line which would lead both sides to an all-out war. That's still in place. So a heavy barrage of rockets yet, yes, but not a major change in this conflict which has been going on for 9 months now.
That was Jonathan Regev reporting on the latest exchange of fire between Israel and Lebanon. To the Americas, U.S. President Joe Biden is facing growing opposition from within his own party as he refuses to quit the race for the White House. While the American public has raised concerns that both presidential frontrunners are too old, worries are growing among Democrats after Biden's lackluster debate performance against Donald Trump. At least 2 lawmakers have openly called on Biden to drop out. And in another blow, Walt Disney's granddaughter has become the latest major Democratic backer, threatening to halt donations unless Biden withdraws. Popin Puntin has more.
President Joe Biden is on the defensive since his debate performance against Donald Trump last Thursday. He exhibited moments of confusion and memory lapse while Trump railed against his record in office.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look.
In the days since the debate, Biden has been fending off criticism that he's not fit to stay atop the presidential ticket. This just 4 months before the November presidential election. Biden, at 81, was the oldest president ever when he became commander-in-chief in 2021, aged 78. Worries about cognitive decline have been floated for years, but Biden's disastrous debate performance caused panic within his own party. Members of Biden's inner circle, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and South Carolina Representative Jim Clyburn, are remaining tight-lipped about what the president is saying behind closed doors. At a Wednesday briefing, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre came under pressure from members of the media.
So can you be straight with us and the American people? Is the president clear-eyed about what it takes to stay in the race and what it would take for him to drop out?
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race. I don't have anything else beyond that.
Just a few hours later, Democratic governors met with Biden at the White House, emerging from discussions presenting a united front. Polls have shown that Trump's lead against Biden has widened since last week's debate.
That was Popin Punting reporting from Washington. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and the U.S. Gulf Coast are bracing for a powerful Hurricane Beryl. The season's first powerful storm churned through islands in the Caribbean, killing at least 11 people and leaving destruction in its wake. Frank Contreras reports.
Hurricane Beryl blasted into Jamaica on Wednesday, ripping rooftops from many homes and tossing boats as if they were toys. Thursday morning, the powerful storm, which began as a Category 5 hurricane, was raging over the Cayman Islands. Officials say it destroyed 95% of homes on the islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines before charging back out to sea. Beryl brought havoc all the way to the Dominican Republic. Hurricane Beryl is now heading for Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Officials, residents, and thousands of tourists are bracing for the storm to make landfall. The powerful storm is expected to hit land again somewhere south of Tulum or perhaps near the town of Felipe Carrillo Puerto, according to Mexican government officials. Mexico's Federal Civil Protection Agency is on standby to send emergency help to tourism resorts in the states of Quintana Roo and Yucatan. Tamaulipas State borders the U.S. state of Texas, and hurricane rescue preparations are underway there too. The storm has lost some of its original strength, but it remains a major threat with powerful winds and torrential rain.
That was Frank Contreras reporting from Mexico City. Finally, in Asia, Chinese President Xi Jinping is on a state visit to Tajikistan following a packed schedule at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Astana, Kazakhstan. President Xi has called on China and Tajikistan to ensure the steady development of bilateral ties by improving and maintaining high-level exchanges. Michal Bardavit has more from Dushanbe.
Upon his arrival, President Xi Jinping basically set the tone and the expectations for this visit with his statement. He stated that the two countries had basically achieved a leap, first from good neighborly friendship, then to strategic partnership, and then to comprehensive strategic partnerships, and therefore became a model for good neighboring countries. Now, he stated that he looked forward to his talks with President Rahmon, making new plans for the development of China-Tajikistan relations under the new situation. He expressed his confidence that the visit will promote all-round cooperation for China-Tajikistan relations and take it to a new, higher level. And this was basically echoed to us by Tajik officials who have been preparing intensely. And they expect that dozens of documents may be signed during this visit in various fields such as education, health, and transport as well. Now, during the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization Heads of State Summit in Astana, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, also underlined several key issues for cooperation from member states. For example, in security, he said, and I quote, "No matter how the international landscape changes, our organization must hold the bottom line of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security." He noted that the SCO needs to have a complete set of measures under the security cooperation mechanism because more lines of defense will give them more protection.
That was Michal Bardavit on President Xi Jinping's state visit to Tajikistan. Recapping today's headlines. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has conceded defeat in the general election following a crushing defeat to the Labour Party. Reports say Israel's spy chief is traveling to Qatar to resume ceasefire talks on the conflict in Gaza. And U.S. President Joe Biden is facing growing opposition from the Democrats as he refuses to quit the race for the White House. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports, and culture, you can subscribe to The Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Tian Yu. Thank you for listening.